Yul Brynner watched Steve McQueen practice, said nothing. But his silence was a countdown. 1960, the Magnificent Seven set. Arizona Desert, week 3 of production. The gun training area, a makeshift range set up behind the sound stages. Targets lined up, holsters hanging. The smell of gunpowder and male ego thick in the air. McQueen was showing off, again, drawing his Colt .45. Fast, faster, fastest, the classic quick draw. Hip holster to target in under a second. Each draw accompanied by a comment, a laugh, a look at the gathered crew to make sure they were watching. And they were watching. Everyone was always watching Steve McQueen. See that? 0.42 seconds. That's faster than half the gunslingers in real Western history. The weapons master, a 60-year-old former stuntman named Jack Cordell, nodded politely. Very impressive, Steve. You've been practicing. Damn right I have. When I do something, I do it right. McQueen holstered, drew again. Smooth, flashy, perfect for cameras. I bet I'm the fastest draw on this entire production. Hell, probably the fastest in Hollywood. That's when he noticed Brynner, standing 20 feet away, arms crossed, perfectly still, watching with those coal-black eyes that saw everything and revealed nothing. Hey, YUL! You been standing there long? Long enough. McQueen grinned. That cocky, insecure grin. Want to see it again? I'm working on getting it under .4. No. One word. Flat. Final. McQueen's grin faltered. No. Come on, man, I'm pretty good. You're adequate. The word landed like a slap. A young armorer's assistant named Danny Martinez was organizing ammunition when he heard the exchange. 26 years old. Former Marine. 2 tours. He knew guns. Knew how to handle them. Knew the difference between flash and function. And he knew, watching Brynner's face, that something was about to happen. Something no one would forget. McQueen's smile disappeared entirely. Adequate. Jack just said I'm one of the fastest he's seen. Jack is being polite. Brynner walked closer, each step measured, controlled. A panther approaching prey. You're fast, Steve. I'll give you that. Your draw is smooth. Your form is good. For Hollywood. What's that supposed to mean? It means you're performing. You're showing off. You're playing gunfighter. Brynner stopped 5 feet away. But you're not a gunfighter. You're an actor pretending to be one. McQueen's face flushed. And you're not? We're all pretending here, YUL. That's what acting is. Some of us are pretending. Some of us remember. The cryptic response hung in the air. McQueen looked confused. Jack looked uncomfortable. The crew sensed something shifting, the atmosphere changing, like the moment before a storm breaks. Remember what? Brynner didn't answer. Instead, he turned to Jack. Do you have a loaded weapon? Jack hesitated. YUL, we don't usually. Do you have one? The command in that voice. Jack nodded, went to the weapons cabinet, returned with a Colt .45. 6 rounds, live ammunition. He handed it to Brynner carefully. Please be careful. I'm always careful. Brynner checked the weapon. Professional, methodical, not the showy spin check of a movie cowboy. The serious inspection of someone who'd handled real guns, who knew they were tools, not toys. Set up a target. Jack placed a man-sized target downrange, 50 feet, standard distance. Brynner holstered the weapon, faced the target. And suddenly, everything about him changed. The actor disappeared. Something older emerged, something harder, something forged in survival, not studios. McQueen watched, confused, curious, maybe a little nervous. Steve, watch closely, because I'm only doing this once. Then Brynner moved. Danny Martinez had seen fast draws. In the Marines, in competition, on film sets. He'd never seen this. Brynner's hand moved. But moved was the wrong word. It materialized. The gun appeared in his hand like it had teleported there. No visible draw, no flash, no performance. Just holstered. Then, firing. The shot cracked across the desert. The target's center mass exploded. Perfect kill shot. Brynner holstered. The entire sequence, draw, aim, fire, holster, took less than half a second. The set was silent. Completely. Totally. Silent. McQueen stood frozen. Mouth open. The cockiness drained from his face like water from a broken glass. Jack whispered, "Jesus Christ." Brynner turned to McQueen. His face hadn't changed. No pride. No satisfaction. Just that same controlled neutrality. "You draw in .42 seconds. Impressive for someone who learned 6 weeks ago." He walked closer. "I draw in .28. Not impressive. Necessary." "How the hell?" "Because when I was 14 years old, I needed to know how to kill a man before he killed me." The confession dropped like a bomb. Everyone stared. This wasn't in any biography, wasn't in any interview, wasn't part of the carefully constructed Yul Brynner mythology. This was something real, something he'd kept buried. McQueen found his voice. "What are you talking about?" Brynner looked at the gun in his hand, turned it over, studied it like an old enemy. 1934. Harbin, China. My family was living in the Russian immigrant community. Refugees. Displaced. Desperate. And the city was full of people like us. Former soldiers. Former criminals. Former everything. All trying to survive. His voice was quiet, distant, like he was talking from the bottom of a well. There were gangs, bandits, men who would kill you for your shoes, for your food, for looking at them wrong. He glanced at McQueen. My father was gone. My mother was working. My sister was young. And I was the man of the house, 14 years old. Barely spoke Chinese, didn't understand the rules, but I understood that we were targets. Brynner walked to the target, examined the hole he'd made. Perfect center mass, efficient, professional, lethal. An old white Russian officer taught me to shoot, former Imperial Army. He'd seen the revolution, seen the Civil War, survived things I can't even describe. He told me, in a gunfight, the fastest draw doesn't win. The most committed does, the one who's already decided to kill, before he even reaches for the weapon. Brynner turned back. I learned to draw fast, not for applause, not for cameras, but because hesitation meant death. McQueen stood there, speechless, all his bravado, all his swagger. Gone. Did you ever use it? Yes. Brynner said it simply, matter-of-factly, like admitting he'd once owned a dog, once. An alley behind a market. 3 men. They wanted money we didn't have, wanted other things. Things I couldn't let them take. He looked at his hands, the same hands that had just drawn and fired with inhuman speed. I had a small pistol, Russian Nagant. 7 rounds. I fired twice. Hit one in the leg. They ran. You shot someone? I stopped someone. There's a difference. Brynner looked at McQueen directly. You practice your quick draw for movies. To look cool. To impress people. To win bar bets. He holstered the Colt. I learned it to stay alive. And even now, 30 years later, my body remembers. Because that kind of training never leaves you. It lives in your muscles, your reflexes, your nightmares. Danny Martinez felt something crack open inside him. He'd thought he understood violence. Thought 2 tours in the Pacific made him a killer. But Brynner was describing something different. Not war, not orders, not patriotism. Survival, pure, desperate. A 14-year-old boy learning to kill because the alternative was watching his family suffer. That changed you. Permanently. McQueen cleared his throat. Why, Yul? I didn't know. Of course you didn't. Because I don't tell people. Because Hollywood doesn't want to hear that their exotic king was once a refugee child who learned to shoot by necessity, not choice. Brynner unloaded the Colt, handed it back to Jack. His hands were steady, not a tremor. "You asked if I wanted to see your quick draw." The answer is no. Because every time I see someone playing gunfighter, I remember what real violence looks like, smells like, feels like. He looked at the target, at the hole he'd made. Perfect. Professional. Permanent. You're playing a character. You're the cooler king, the rebel, the cool guy who happens to carry a gun. He looked back at McQueen. "I'm not playing anything. When I draw a weapon, even a prop, my body goes back to Harbin. To that alley. To being 14 and terrified, and knowing that my speed was the only thing standing between my family and hell." McQueen's voice was small. "I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean to. You didn't do anything wrong. You're an actor acting. That's the job." Brynner started to walk away, stopped. "But Steve, when you draw your gun on camera, when you play the tough guy, remember that for some of us it's not playing, it's remembering. And that's a very different thing." They shot the gunfight scenes 2 weeks later. McQueen was professional. Hit his marks. Delivered his lines. His draw was perfectly adequate. But he never bragged about it again, never challenged anyone, never made it a competition. Because he'd learned something fundamental. There's a difference between learning a skill for art and learning it for survival, and the latter leaves marks the former can't imagine. But the story doesn't end there. Years later, in 1978, McQueen was preparing for Tom Horn. A real gunfighter story. He was working with a technical advisor practicing his draw. The advisor said, "You're good, really good. One of the best actor draws I've seen." McQueen smiled. "Thanks, but I'm not the best I've ever seen." Who was? Yul Brynner. On the Magnificent Seven set, he drew and fired a real weapon in under 0.3 seconds. Perfect center mass. No hesitation. The advisor whistled. "That's professional gunfighter speed. Competition level. How'd an actor learn that?" McQueen was quiet for a moment. He wasn't always an actor. Before Hollywood, before Broadway, he was a kid trying to survive. And he learned things that most of us can't even imagine. He looked at his own gun. His prop. His toy. "I spent years trying to be the coolest guy on screen. But YUL taught me something. Cool is just performance. Real is something else entirely. And you don't want to be real in that way. Because real means you had to be." Danny Martinez, the young armorer's assistant, went on to become one of Hollywood's top weapons masters, worked on hundreds of films, trained thousands of actors. In his autobiography, published in 2005, he wrote, "I've worked with actors who can draw fast, who can shoot accurately, who look like real gunfighters. But only once did I see someone who actually was one." Yul Brynner on the Magnificent Seven set. The speed was inhuman, the precision was perfect, the execution was terrifying, because it wasn't a performance, it was muscle memory from a life I couldn't imagine, from a necessity I'd never face. After that day, I never again called an actor a real gunfighter, because I'd seen one, and the difference was profound. Jack Cordell, the weapons master, was interviewed in 1982 about his career. The journalist asked about his most memorable moment. Jack thought for a long time. Yul Brynner's draw on Magnificent Seven. What made it special? Everything. The speed, the accuracy, but mostly the absence of joy. When actors shoot, even when they're playing serious roles, there's a little spark of fun, of play acting, of pretend. When Yul drew that gun, there was nothing. No emotion, no performance, just function, like breathing, like surviving. Jack paused. And when he talked about learning it as a kid in China, protecting his family, I realized something. We'd all been playing dress-up, cowboys and Indians, movie magic. But Yul, he'd lived it, and it had cost him something we couldn't see. Something he carried in his perfect, controlled stillness, something that made him the best because he'd paid a price we never had to. Brynner himself never spoke publicly about the incident, but in 1983, 2 years before his death, he was asked about his proudest skill. "I can draw a gun faster than almost anyone in Hollywood," the interviewer smiled. "From all your training on Westerns?" "No, from survival." He didn't elaborate, didn't explain, didn't need to. The interviewer, sensing something deeper, changed topics. But the answer lingered. This story reminds us that performance and reality are separated by experience. The best actors aren't always the ones who've lived the most. But those who have carry something different. And sometimes, skill isn't about talent, it's about necessity, about learning, because failure meant death. Steve McQueen could draw in 0.42 seconds. Yul Brynner could draw in 0.28. The difference of 0.14 seconds was the difference between art and survival, between playing a gunfighter and being one. And that difference? You can't teach it. You can't fake it. You can only survive it. If this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe. Because behind every perfect performance, there might be a painful past. And understanding that changes how we watch.